You watch her demand equality when it benefits her, then suddenly turn traditional when it doesn't. She wants you to split the bills, but expects you to plan every date. She fights for her independence until there's a spider in the room. And the moment you point out the contradiction, you become the villain. This isn't about feminism or tradition. This is about something far more calculated that's been hiding in plain sight. And once you see it, you'll never look at modern relationships the same way again. Women have become masters of a psychological game so subtle that most men don't even realize they're playing it. It's called strategic flexibility, and it's revolutionizing how power dynamics work in relationships. The rules aren't just being rewritten, they're being rewritten in real time, depending on what serves her best in that exact moment. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is observable behavior backed by evolutionary psychology, social conditioning, and the simple reality that humans will always optimize for their own benefit when given the opportunity. The question isn't whether this happens. The question is why you've been trained not to notice it. Let's start with what's really going on beneath the surface. When a woman cherry picks between equality and traditional gender roles, she's not being hypocritical in the way you think. She's being strategic in a way that's deeply rooted in both biology and social learning. For thousands of years, women survived by maximizing resources and security while minimizing risk. That survival mechanism didn't disappear just because we invented dating apps and split checks. It adapted. It got smarter. It learned to wear the mask of modern values while still operating on ancient programming. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Society not only allows this, it actively protects it. Try calling out a woman for wanting equality only when it suits her, and watch how quickly you're labeled controlling, insecure, or worse. The system has built-in defenses against you even questioning the pattern. This selective equality shows up everywhere once you know what to look for. She expects you to approach her first because that's tradition. But she also expects equal say in every relationship decision because that's equality. She wants you to be emotionally vulnerable and open. But if you show too much weakness, she loses attraction because her biology still craves strength. She demands you respect her career ambitions completely. But if you're not earning more than her, something feels off to her on a level she might not even consciously recognize. She wants you to share housework equally, unless it's something heavy, dangerous, or involves killing a bug, because suddenly those tasks belong to your gender. And none of this is happening in a vacuum. Every choice she makes is being reinforced by her friends, by social media, by a culture that tells her she can have it all without acknowledging the contradictions. The psychology behind this goes deeper than simple selfishness. It's called hypergamy, and it's been studied extensively across cultures and time periods. Women are biologically wired to seek the best possible mate they can attract, which means someone who has more resources, more status, more capability than they do. But modern equality messaging tells women they should be with someone who sees them as a complete equal. These two drives create an internal conflict that most women resolve by unconsciously creating a flexible framework. She is your equal when equality elevates her position. She embraces traditional dynamics when tradition serves her better. And because this happens largely beneath conscious awareness, she genuinely doesn't see herself as manipulative. In her mind, she's just responding naturally to each situation as it arises. The manipulation isn't intentional. It's instinctual, which actually makes it more powerful, not less. Watch how this plays out in financial dynamics. Modern women overwhelmingly say they want financial independence and equal contribution to expenses. Studies show this clearly in surveys and interviews. But observe actual behavior, and the pattern shifts dramatically. When it comes time to pay for dates, travel, or major purchases, suddenly there's an expectation that he should cover it or at least cover more of it. Not because she can't afford her share, because something deep in her psychology makes her feel less valued if he's not investing more resources into her than she's investing into him. This isn't about the money itself. It's about what the money represents. Investment, priority, resources, effort. And here's where it gets really interesting. If you suggest splitting everything exactly 50-50 down to the penny, most women will agree intellectually but feel turned off emotionally. They'll say yes, but their attraction will drop. Because true equality in resource distribution conflicts with the hypergamous instinct that drives mate selection. She wants to feel like you're reaching up to be with her, not that you're settling for someone at your level. The same pattern emerges in emotional labor. She wants you to be emotionally available, to share your feelings, to be vulnerable and authentic. But there's an invisible limit to how much vulnerability she can handle before it triggers a deep biological alarm. Too much emotional openness from you reads as weakness. Too much neediness from you makes her feel like she's dating down. She wants access to your emotions, but she wants to remain your emotional safe haven more than she wants to be your emotional equal. This creates an impossible standard. You're supposed to be vulnerable enough that she feels connected to you, but strong enough that she still feels protected by you. And because these boundaries are never explicitly stated, you're left guessing where the line is, constantly adjusting your behavior based on her reactions, never quite sure if you're being too open or too closed off. Physical safety and protection reveal another layer of this dynamic. Women fought hard for the message that they don't need men, that they're strong and capable and independent. And they are, until they're not. Until there's a threatening situation, a physical danger, a moment where someone needs to step up and handle something difficult or scary. In those moments, equality disappears. The expectation snaps back to traditional roles so fast it's almost comical. She expects you to be the one who investigates the strange noise at night. She expects you to be the one who confronts the aggressive person. She expects you to be the one who puts yourself between her and any potential threat. And if you suggest that as equals you should handle it together or take turns, you're not just being impractical. You're being fundamentally unattractive to her on a level that bypasses all her conscious beliefs about equality. Social dynamics expose even more contradictions. She wants you to respect her friendships, her need for girls' nights, her independence, and social life outside the relationship. That's equality. But if you express the same needs with the same frequency, something feels wrong to her. Your social independence can start to feel like abandonment or disinterest. Your close female friendships can trigger jealousy even though she maintains close male friendships herself. Your need for guys' nights can be questioned or limited in ways her social calendar never is. And if you point out this imbalance, you're controlling. You're insecure. You're not comfortable with strong women. The framework shifts to paint your observation as the problem rather than addressing the actual inequality you've identified. Now here's where this gets truly sophisticated. Most women engaging in this behavior are not consciously manipulative. They genuinely believe they're being fair. They've internalized a narrative that allows them to hold contradictory positions without experiencing cognitive dissonance. How? By creating exceptions and special circumstances for every situation that benefits them. When she wants equality, it's because equality is objectively right and fair. When she wants traditional treatment, it's because this particular situation is different, special, unique. She's not being hypocritical. Each individual choice makes sense in isolation. It's only when you zoom out and look at the pattern that the strategy becomes visible. And society has made it almost impossible for you to zoom out and point to that pattern without being attacked. The cultural protection of this dynamic is remarkable. We have entire social movements built around empowering women's choices, which sounds positive until you realize it means a woman's choice can never be questioned, analyzed, or criticized without the person doing the questioning being labeled anti-woman. This creates a protective bubble around female behavior that doesn't exist for male behavior. Men are constantly being told to examine their privilege, check their behavior, recognize their advantages. Women are told their feelings are valid. Their choices are empowered. Their experiences are truth. One gender is under constant scrutiny. The other is under constant protection. And this imbalance makes it nearly impossible to have honest conversations about relationship dynamics that benefit women at men's expense. Let's talk about how this shows up in conflict resolution. When there's a disagreement, modern relationship advice tells you that both partners should be heard equally, that both perspectives have value, that compromise requires give and take from both sides. But watch what actually happens. Her feelings about the situation carry more weight than your logic about the situation. If she feels hurt, you need to address that feeling regardless of whether her interpretation was accurate. If you feel hurt, you need to explain why in a way that doesn't make her feel attacked for causing that hurt. Her emotions are treated as primary data. Your emotions are treated as secondary complaints. And if you push back on this, if you insist that your perspective matters just as much as hers, you're being dismissive, invalidating, emotionally unavailable. The equality disappears the moment it would require her to prioritize your emotional experience over her own. Dating and courtship rituals show this pattern at its most obvious. Despite decades of equality messaging, the vast majority of women still expect men to initiate, pursue, plan, and lead in the early stages of dating. They expect men to take the risk of rejection by approaching. They expect men to create the experiences by planning dates. They expect men to demonstrate investment through effort and resources. And they judge men harshly who don't fulfill these traditional masculine roles. But the moment the relationship is established, equality becomes the standard she holds you to. Now decisions should be made together. Now planning should be shared. Now emotional labor should be divided equally. The traditional expectations got her into the relationship. Equality expectations govern how the relationship operates. And somehow you're supposed to know exactly when that transition happens and adjust accordingly. This creates exhausting confusion for men who are genuinely trying to do the right thing. You're told to treat women as equals, but doing so makes you less attractive. You're told to split responsibilities fairly, but certain responsibilities will always default to you based on your gender. You're told to be emotionally open, but too much openness reads as weakness. You're told women don't need protecting, but failing to protect when it matters makes you worthless in her eyes. And navigating all these contradictions requires a level of social intelligence and adaptability that most men simply don't have, leaving them constantly off balance, always guessing, never quite sure what's expected of them in any given moment. Here's the part nobody wants to acknowledge. This strategy works. Women who master strategic flexibility in relationships typically get more of what they want than women who commit fully to either traditional or egalitarian frameworks. By maintaining the ability to shift between these positions based on circumstance, they maximize advantage in every situation. They get traditional male investment and protection when it benefits them. They get modern equality and independence when it benefits them. And they face minimal social consequences for the contradiction because the culture has accepted that women's choices are inherently valid and beyond question. From a pure strategy perspective, it's brilliant. From a relationship health perspective, it's corrosive because partnership requires consistency. Trust requires predictability. Intimacy requires honesty about what you actually want rather than shifting your position based on what serves you best moment to moment. The solution isn't to become bitter or resentful. That path leads nowhere good. The solution is awareness paired with boundaries. You need to see the pattern clearly without judgment. This is how many modern women operate. Not because they're evil, but because they can. Because the culture permits it and their biology drives it, and the combination creates behavior that optimizes their outcomes at the expense of clarity and fairness. Once you see it, you can decide how to respond. You can accept it as the cost of modern dating and adapt accordingly. You can set boundaries that demand more consistency from your partner. You can choose partners who demonstrate more self-awareness about these contradictions and actively work against them. But you cannot unsee it once you've recognized the pattern. And that awareness is power. If this resonates with experiences you've had, you need to understand something important. You're not crazy. You're not imagining things. You're observing real patterns that you've been socially conditioned not to name or discuss. And the fact that naming these patterns feels dangerous, that criticizing female behavior in relationships feels like walking through a minefield, that should tell you something about who has the real power in modern relationship dynamics. If you found this valuable, this channel exists to help you navigate these realities with clear eyes and strong boundaries. Make sure you're subscribed because we're going deeper into the psychology that actually governs relationships, not the fairy tales you've been sold.